Year of operation, Glenn Davis.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much for playing. And joining us in the studio today, Delegate Glenn Davis. Good morning, Glenn.
Morning, Chris. I guess we're almost, a quarter of the way through. This is flying.
This is going great. We spoke in the last hour. We did a little rapid fire. Favorite movie, favorite TV show, favorite band. Ben Cline, get ready for this. Favorite restaurant, favorite song. Favorite sports team is the Yankees. Who's your favorite Yankee of all time?
Oh, Donnie Baseball. I grew up playing first base in the Little League,
Mattingly,
Really? Captain of the Yankees. I know some people think Babe Ruth, and you got to go with the older guys, but
like
Donnie
the historic
Baseball.
guys, the guys, the Hall of Famers, the big numbers guys. You're Don Mattingly.
Don Mattingly.
Well, you have really surprised me with your answers this morning. I don't agree with any of them.
Well, Chris, you have a chance to get some answers right here soon.
Well, I'll be the judge of that. I'm the one asking the questions. Okay, joining us now from hopefully Lexington, Virginia, Rockbridge County, Oklahoma native.
Yeah, I just found that out today.
Well, you got to pay attention.
Yeah,
I knew this for years.
Let's find out if he can ride a horse.
Let's not do that. He has a horse center in his district. That's the big one. Delegate Ben Cline, how are you this morning?
Good morning, guys. Doing great. How's everything going?
Well, we're fired up and got some caffeine rolling. How about you?
Yes, got my first cup in, ready to go.
So you're running for the Republican nomination for Congress in the 6th Congressional District in the Western Virginia, which runs from where to where?
All the way from up in Front Royal up in the north, all the way down to Roanoke and Lynchburg in the south, and east to the Blue Ridge, and over to Amherst. So it's a sprawling district about the size of Connecticut, but exact opposite politically.
You said it's the size of Connecticut?
Opposite of Connecticut.
Oh, opposite of Connecticut. I'm sorry. It's the Interstate 81 district.
Right. It does have 81 is the economic transportation backbone, and it's very important. We need to widen it to 3 lanes. I'm the only one with a plan to do that. Some of my opponents have claimed that it's not even the role of the federal government to be involved in transportation. I look forward to getting up there and actually making those changes to get it done.
I think if someone thinks that transportation is not a core function of government, they probably shouldn't be running for Congress. Let's get to some rapid fire questions. You can take that comment and do whatever you want to with it. We're just trying to lighten it up here on Easter Monday morning here, Ben. Before we get into some really juicy political topics here, just to get your synapses firing here. Some basically cultural questions here. Nothing too difficult, but your colleague Glenn Davis has not done well this morning. What's your favorite movie?
Saving Private Ryan.
Really?
I like that.
I love that one.
He went with Secret of My Success. Saving Private Ryan.
Who did?
Glenn Davis. He's in.
Well, it's that business
Glenn,
thing,
it's good to hear from you.
Hey,
buddy.
He wants to be Michael J. Fox.
You got a different point of view out there.
Who was the sidekick in that? Was it Helen Slater?
I think so.
Is that who it was? Outstanding.
Yep, very young.
Okay, favorite TV show, Ben?
Favorite TV show? Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, I love that.
Cooter.
Oh, Daisy, everyone's first girlfriend.
What's that? What was that? Roscoe.
Roscoe Pico Train. Yep.
Wow. Dukes of Hazzard.
That's what I get. That and Andy Griffith are what I grew up
All right, Andy Griffith. There we go. Favorite band?
Favorite band? Gosh. I would have to say probably U2.
All right.
Great. Well,
He is so far ahead of you.
Look,
do you have any idea? What'd you come up with?
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses.
Almost the same.
Oh, I like Guns N' Roses.
But they're not your favorite. Everyone likes Guns N' Roses, but not your favorite. I mean, they have to have lyrics that matter, right?
Hold on, you went with someone I don't even think I heard of, Chris.
The Rolling Stones?
No, I think the Allman Brothers. But
Allman Brothers, yes.
My dad listened to that.
I like music and lyrics together in the same format. It's an interesting concept. Favorite restaurant, Ben? It's got to be in the 6th District right now.
Well, it'd have to be the Southern Inn right now, since we're in the 6th District, and that's so close. They did a great Easter brunch, Sunday brunch, and they also do good dinners, too.
Nice. Southern Inn in Lexington, Virginia, right in the heart of downtown Lexington, across from the First Presbyterian Church. Okay, favorite song. We're going to go back up. We're going to back up to music here.
Oh, you probably don't have friends in low places standing by.
Well, you'd be surprised. I look over at Glenn.
But Garth Brooks is probably one of my favorite artists, and he's got a bunch. So
friends in low places. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. Favorite sport teams.
Favorite sports teams? Well,
who are you a fan of?
I'd have to say that I'm a Steelers fan.
I did not know that. How did I not know that? I've known you for almost 20 years now, and I did not know that.
You come from Western Virginia, you're going to be either going to be a misguided Washington, D.C. sports fan, or you're going to be Charlotte or Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And I went to Pittsburgh, and now I know you're from that area.
I'm from Pittsburgh. I was born downtown Pittsburgh. Downtown. That's how they say it in Pittsburgh. Downtown.
Now, before we move on, I have one for him. Hey, so Ben, are you running for Congress or away from the House of Delegates?
Both. Well, we have lost so many friends over the last year that there are a lot of reasons that we need experienced fighters in Richmond. But I will say that the problems up in D.C. are so severe and so ingrained that we really need somebody with experience to go up there and help to clean it up, drain the swamp, if you will, and get some things done up there. So that's why I feel like I can't say no to these requests from people saying get up there and take the Valley values up to D.C., and so I'm going to give it a shot, see if we can get it done.
And your attitude and ability to really get things done. I mean, if I can just kind of kick off the first topic, Chris, here.
Go right ahead.
Being in the House with Ben, I've seen Ben accomplish a lot, but one of the biggest things that I think has made the biggest difference is transparency and recorded votes. I mean, Ben, you've always been a champion of that, and finally, for the first time, we've actually got recorded votes now, in subcommittee and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about the efforts you've done to bring that through? Because I know it was a long time coming.
It has been, and I've been introducing bill after bill to try and record subcommittee votes. It's where bills go to die. It's where good bills get pushed under the rug, and people try and avoid taking tough votes, so their constituents are none the wiser when it comes to how they took a position on a tough issue. And so I think that transparency and sunlight are the best things for government and for our constituents to hold us accountable for our votes. And so I put in bills year after year to do that, and they would go to the Rules Committee chaired by the Speaker, and the Speaker would smile as the bill was defeated year after year by, not ironically, by a voice vote. But
thank you, Delegate. Have you another?
Yeah, have you another? And but last year when they killed it, Kirk Cox, the soon-to-be Speaker, but then Majority Leader, raised the question. He said, "Well, this is more really a rules change than a bill. You should have brought this as a rules change." And I said, "Thanks for the tip." So I don't think he knew at the time that our majority would slip down to one, but every single one of us was needed on the rules package at the start of this session. And when they came to me and asked me if I was going to stick with them on the rules, I asked them in reply, "Well, recorded votes are in the rules, right?" And they said, "We'll get back to you." So then the first day of session, voila, out come the rules with recorded votes included. And so I was proud to get that through, and everybody's taking credit for it, and I think that's great. When there's a great idea, go ahead and take credit for it. So our leadership is out there talking about it, and I think that's great because we are the party of transparency in government. We are the party of limited government and making sure the people can hold their government accountable. And so I think we should continue to push transparency in government in the future.
Good answer. Good answer. That's and how long have you been leading on this issue, the fight for transparency in the General Assembly, Ben?
Oh gosh, 10 years ago, Ken Cuccinelli and I introduced a bill to put the budget on the Auditor of Public Accounts website in a drill down format. So you can go to the APA's website and drill down into each area of government and see how much we spend on it and what they do. And that was one of the first partnerships on transparency that I did. I know, Chris, you were involved in it as part of the cost-cutting caucus for years.
Thanks for that.
And trying to make sure our taxpayers knew where their money was going.
That's right. That's important because I had before I came over this morning, had breakfast at the Fairfield Inn next door here, and sat down for breakfast. And the lady who makes the breakfast there, Judy, she's 70, on Social Security, on Medicare, and she thinks the politicians don't care about the people on the she says the little people, the people on the economic edge, and she listed off the things that she's a beneficiary of from government. And there's always that balance. You kind of go, well, you're getting a lot in return for some of your taxes, because she was talking about how much taxes hurt her. But because of the lack of knowledge of what goes on in government, people assume things are going poorly. It's that disinfectant, not only that sunshine brings in, that transparency brings in, but it's also an element of, what's the word I'm looking for, Ben? Confidence and knowledge of what you actually get. Because when you go to Walmart or you go to Target, you get value for your dollar, right? It's presumed that you're going to get a good value. No one comes out of Walmart going, I got chipped, right? You think going in, I'm going to get a good deal, right? But when you talk about government, you kind of go, I send all this money up there, I don't know what happens, I don't see the return, and that's one of the things that's the disconnect between our political class and the people writ large. But let's move into your campaign. What's going on in the 6th District? How's the campaign? You've got, 6 weeks to go until the convention, which is now a majority vote, not plurality. How do things stand in the 6th?
Well, things are going great. Yeah, as you said, the efforts to rig the convention to make it a plurality vote, which has never been done in the history of the 6th for Congress. I mean, it's just unheard of to try and say that someone should be able to win a nomination by the Republican Party with less than 50% of the vote. So we challenged that, and State Central agreed that it shouldn't have been in the call for the convention, so it was removed from the call. So now it does require a vote on convention day to determine how the convention is going to be done. And they may very well try again to put it in the rules for the convention, because they understand that their preferred candidate can't get 50% in a convention. She's going to be limited to around 35% of the vote. And we want to unify the party around a common nominee who's going to be able to take it to the Democrats in a strong and aggressive manner. We want to be able to be the party that we truly are, the majority party that carries a strong message of lower taxes, less government, individual liberty and freedom. And so I can best articulate that message. I'm optimistic that when we get to the convention that I will have the most delegates attending, and regardless as to whether it's a plurality or a majority, I want to have that unifying effect where everybody gets to vote for me eventually, whether it's on the first ballot or the third ballot, and that'll make my campaign that much stronger going into the general.
This is Chris Saxman filling in for the vacationing John Fredericks. John Fredericks is in Houston with his family enjoying some sports. Joining me on the call this morning right now is Delegate Ben Cline, candidate for the Republican nomination in the 6th Congressional District of the retiring 26-year incumbent Bob Goodlatte. And in the studio this morning, Delegate Glenn Davis, a colleague of Delegate Ben Cline.
I'm going to miss him. It's Ben's one of those guys that we need to have in the General Assembly, but unfortunately, it looks like Washington needs him more, so I look forward to seeing him up there. And, Ben, I want to ask you about a bill you carried this year, and if you had some thoughts about a similar bill in Washington, and that is the bill to allow CBD oil for doctors to be able to prescribe it. It's a bill I carried before. I couldn't get it through.
What's CBD, Glenn?
CBD is basically the oil that comes from a marijuana plant.
What was that?
Oil that comes from a...
You're a stoner?
Isn't that, you don't smoke it, Chris. It's not any of that. But in Virginia, we allowed it to be used for epilepsy. Studies have shown it helps in Crohn's disease.
I'm not making fun of the oil.
I know. It's in Crohn's disease. It helps cancer. All these. It can replace opioids. And Ben carried it this year after years of looking into it and helping keep it going, and finally got it passed. And Ben, congratulations. And if you'll talk a little bit more about what it took to get that done, because you had a lot of education that you had to do for some of our colleagues up there. And what are your thoughts about that being allowed nationwide, so there isn't this kind of patchwork quilt?
Well, as you know, that in Virginia, it's still illegal to possess marijuana, and so that's a federal. It's a federal scheduling issue where because it's a Schedule I drug, and that has been that way for a long time. It's ranked right up there with some of the most addictive and dangerous drugs to possess. And so in Virginia, it's still illegal to possess it, and even if you possess the oil, which is non-hallucinogenic, can't get you high, but it does if you take it in a dropper format and put it 3 drops on a cracker or something like that, it can help alleviate some of the symptoms, whether it's epileptic seizures, some of the pain from Crohn's disease, some of the pain related to cancer treatments. It can alleviate some of that pain. So we can't make it legal in Virginia, but what we did was say that if a physician wants to prescribe it, not prescribe it because it's illegal to prescribe it. If they want to recommend that a person use it, a person can use that in court if they're charged with possession of the oil as an affirmative defense, which means you come in, you show that doctor's recommendation, and the judge will dismiss the case if you're charged with possession. Now, that's the best we could do at the state level to make people satisfied that it's okay to go ahead and use it, because it has been shown, and we've seen evidence in the Courts of Justice Committee, that it does have an impact on those types of illnesses. And so we'd like to see a change at the federal level in the scheduling. I think some of our congressmen here in Virginia are leading the way on that. Congressman Garrett has a bill in to change the scheduling. I know Congressman Griffith has supported it as well. And so hopefully we'll see that change eventually. But for now, the situation we have in Virginia is a way to get help to people who need it until the laws change at the federal level.
Well, good on you for doing that. And I know we joke about that a lot because, it's very difficult to make the transition from good policy to good politics because people have these preconceived notions of what's really going on without actually understanding the total issue. And this cannabinoid oil came to me when I met with former NFL player Michael Robinson, and we were talking about some different business opportunities a year and a half ago or so, and he was telling me how many Ambien it took him to get to sleep because of the pain of playing in the NFL, and it brings in all concussion stuff. He said he'd started taking cannabinoid oil, and it really helped with his pain and able to sleep without drugs and just getting those chemicals out of your body to be able to have a healthy lifestyle was a blessing to him and his family and obviously those around him. So keep up the good fight on that. I want to transition to Ben, the question of the day. Dun 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 dun. Can we get some theme song, something ominous? Can you do this for me, Mike? No. The question of the day is this, and for the other guests who'll be calling, I'm going to ask the same question. Is the two-party system in America broken?
Is the two-party system in America broken?
Does it work?
No.
Does it work?
I'd say it's not, but it needs people who are willing to, I would say, articulate the party's positions on issues and then stand by them. I would say what we have all too often are people who like to talk about what it means to be either, well, I assume to be a liberal or to be a conservative. And, what we're seeing right now are too many people, especially up in Washington, who tell their constituents one thing when they're campaigning, and then when they get there, they do something completely different. So I am articulating where I stand on the issues right now. I'm a liberty-minded conservative Republican, and I want the party to embrace those issues. And when I get to Washington, that's how I'm going to vote. You can count on it because that's the way I voted in Richmond for over a decade. And I think we need more of that. People who aren't afraid to stand up, like one of your guests coming up, Nick Freitas, who stood up on the floor of the House and said, let's talk about guns, but let's also talk about the root cause of gun violence. And it's the degradation, the destruction of the core family unit. And we need to talk about those issues. So his video, which every time Glenn knows this, every time Nick Freitas stands up on the floor, he gets 1 million hits on YouTube. And we all kind of gawk at how he's able to do that. But
isn't that, Ben? That's the power of someone's message, though. When anyone can do that. That's the power of the media. Right. That's the power of the internet. It's the power to say, and also the power of the words. And when we have this two-party system where people stand up and say, I'm going to be the rock rib this or the non-compromising that, does that benefit when no one moves to get something done to solve the problem? Because as you point out, especially on the gun issue, there are layers to this. There are not just the gun issue as far as the legality and the regulation, but it's also the place from which that child is raised and how those.
You're right, and
how that all comes together. It's difficult to have that conversation. Go ahead. You're good.
Well, it's not just about whether or not we agree to compromise. It's about whether or not we agree to even talk about those issues, because Nick just wanted to talk. He said, let's talk about the role that family has in gun violence. And no, the other side didn't even want to say it. They left the floor. It was crazy. We got to talk.
It's exactly right. And we saw the march. We've seen the protests. We've seen the walkouts. But what I haven't seen is a solution. I've talked with Scott Lingenfelter and Morgan Griffith, and I've posited and I've approached them with a solution and said, "Here, I think this would work." And they say, "I think you're right. Let's talk about that." And it takes a while for things to get done in the political stream, but to be even suggesting that in the political context, something that would require any sort of compromise or movement suggests that you are de facto not conservative or de facto not liberal, therefore don't do it. You don't get nominated for the party to even go do it. So when you get to D.C., and I hope you do, I think you will be a good representative of the 6th District, but you still have to get things done. How do we break through that?
Right. Well, I think you see it in Richmond. We get things done in Richmond because we don't allow ourselves to be caricatures of our, political positions. We actually sit down with the other side. We talk about things. There are people on the other side of the aisle who I can sit down and have a conversation with about an issue, and we may agree to disagree. But, Vivian Watts is the ranking member of the criminal law subcommittee that I've been on for a decade, and she's someone who we disagree probably 99.9% of the time. But we can sit down and have a conversation because she is from the old school where Republicans and Democrats could have conversations about issues to make progress. And that's the true challenge we've got both in Richmond and in Washington. How are we going to address the tough issues of the day?
Well, it's being able to sit down and have that conversation. Ben, I want to thank you for running, for staying involved in politics and sacrificing, as you and Delegate Glenn Davis do, your time and your family time to serve the greater good. We appreciate your time here today.
And did you know that Vivian Watts was Secretary of Transportation?
And Public Safety.
No,
you're not paying attention.
I'm kidding.
And public safety. It's Chris Saxman, 888-480-5646. Call us. Tim Kaine coming up next. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.